Good morning, traders. It is Thursday, February 7th. We're going to look at the kind of longer term picture here along with the 30-minute chart, the 30-minute chart and the weekly. Let's just run through some of the kind of the short term and the much longer term picture looking forward a few weeks. More or less, here's the SP 500. And if we look at the recent price action, you can see here we've been more or less, we've gone from red bars where we've been in more or less a technical downtrend. We went neutral, broke out, and we've started to have a nice significant rally. Overall, it shows we have another 2 or 3 sessions before the equities market may start to roll over. You can see the cycles more or less have had somewhat of a flat to rising bottom here. So it's been a very bullish sign, but overall we're showing a breakdown in our cycles and we might see the market squeeze up a little bit higher. Today it's set to gap lower, but overall it might continue to chop around or move a little bit higher. And then we could start to see it correct more and come down to something more like have a little bit of a correction like over here where we get into a lime green zone. There was another lime green area here, which means the market gets oversold. And we could see the market pull back over here, which would be around the 20-day moving average as it continues to climb. So that's kind of what we're looking at on the short-term analysis. Overall, you look at the longer term here, we've got this sloping resistance trend line, which more or less we've broken through. We are stuck right under a real critical pivot zone here in the market where prices oscillated through it. It's tagged it a couple times. We've had a lot of wicks and bars tag it or go through it and recover. Same as over here, another one over here. And more or less through the high and the low of this, it's been right through the heart. So we're getting right into this significant resistance zone where we could see the market do a little bit more of a correction. Much like we saw over here where the market rallied up, got close to these highs, very similar over here, rallying up, getting close to these highs, and then the market has a couple weeks, 2 or 3 week pullback before taking another push, which ended up going to new highs, but we'll see if that can happen this time around. Again, we've broken a significant pivot low here, and we are in a series now of potential lower highs and lower lows, so we might see it just poke up, maybe breach these highs, and then we'll have to see how things happen after that going forward. Let's take a look over at a couple of our plays here. Roku, short-term chart, still looks really bullish here overall. We do have a bit of a downward cycle based on today for Roku. More or less it's gone from negative market analysis, red bars, to neutral to bullish. It had a couple short-term buy zones in here. Overall, continues to rally, kind of trade sideways, rally, trade sideways, rally, trade sideways. And the weekly chart here shows we've got a pretty nice move moving up. And it is getting into a pretty significant resistance zone, which is one of the reasons why we started to take some money off the table on the pop. If you look through here, this is getting into resistance. We've got previous high, previous pivot high, and then this became a pivot low. And so we're under this fairly significant level, this 50 to 52 zone where we're going to run into resistance, which we have. You can see price ran up and is sold back down with some sellers. If we break that, then likely 63 will be the next upside target for this, in which we continue to hold a position in hopes that we're going to see a pop and a break, some type of exhaustion move up. Be nice to get a big green bar like this over here where it just breaks through this significant resistance area and we have a nice big run up into that 60 range. Looking over at NIO, this is like electric performance car, kind of like a lookout Tesla. Here comes another pretty significant electric car company, and more or less weekly chart, very strong. It's a new company, had a huge spike on the IPO, came back down, but overall momentum here to the upside. It's a new shares, new company, very strong on balance volume, lots of accumulation going on. It's just starting to break out above these highs, and once it can start to break through here, this could extend and really move to the upside. You can see on our 30-minute chart, we've gone from a negative market, red bars, to orange neutral, to forming a bull flag, green, and really starting to take off. So this has got potential. This is a weekly chart setup. And it's got potential to be still pretty volatile. If the market corrects, we could see this pull back down into the $6 range area. But overall, this is a very strong pattern for moving significantly higher. Let's take a look over at Bonds real quick. We'll just quickly touch on these. You can see bonds, the big picture. We'll just focus here on the weekly chart. More or less, looking in the short-term analysis, bonds came down, trying to build a cup and handle, building a formation for a potential launch. If the stock market rolls over in a few months, this sideways consolidation should turn into a bull flag and a launch pad going forward. Looking over at, let's take a quick look over at the US dollar index. The US dollar this morning is trading higher. It's had a really nice run the last few days, or really the last 5 trading sessions, which is why we got a strong 1-week bar. Again, this is the weekly chart. The dollar here on the verge of popping out of this little rounding, this bottoming formation. We could see it pop and continue to extend and hit new highs, which would give us that pullback in precious metals that we're looking for. And when the dollar tops out around 99.100 on the dollar index chart, that's when I think we see a major bottom in precious metals and could start to see a huge rally going forward. But this may still take, this is a weekly chart, so we're still looking at potentially another month or two of higher dollar as it gets to a significant resistance area and it starts to top, at which point metals should bottom. Looking over at gold, gold's had a really nice multi-month run. It's getting up into resistance, could continue to chop around and potentially move higher. Same with miners. If we take a look at the GDXJ, it's popped up into this resistance zone, starting to pause and pull back a little bit here. I think it's going to get a little bit choppy and wild over the next couple weeks, which is why we ended up exiting pretty much on the day that it put in a top and started to pull back. So there's some potential there for it to base, maybe build a flag and reconsolidate before it potentially breaks out and runs to new highs. Looking over at natural gas, down 2% this morning. It is getting close to this long-term picture that I've been talking about. If we look at this and draw a line on the chart, you can see this significant area in the market. More or less, it is around this 250, 255, 258 area. Each time we've seen natural gas hit this level, we've seen a multi-week rally, hit it again, multi-week, huge rally. We've seen it happen over and over again, and more or less we are falling very quickly into this level, and I think we're getting to the point here, we're only really 6-7 cents away from potential hitting this, and we could see a technical bounce up to the 3, potentially all the way back up to around the 340 area going forward. And there's potential obviously to go higher, but on a technical bounce this quick, we'd probably be looking at a knee-jerk reaction to 3 very quickly. Looking at crude oil, down 1.2% this morning. Going back on the charts, we've got some pretty significant levels on the chart. These previous highs back here in 2017. There's a couple different horizontal resistance levels. You can see we've come up there on the weekly chart. This week we are selling back down. It's kind of hit resistance. We're getting stuck between the 5 period, and the 20 period. We've got 3 key levels of resistance. I do feel as though crude will consolidate or pull back for a little bit, but I do feel as though it's going to push up into this 60, potentially 62 area in due time, which will act as a pretty significant resistance level on the chart, and we could start to see that roll over. But at this point, it is stuck under resistance, and it's having its first pullback. We'll see what kind of pattern it builds on the shorter term chart for us to potentially get long, or if it forms a bearish formation. Anyways, that's it for this morning. Talk to you in a little bit. Bye-bye.